a software developer who used to believe that if you worked hard and loved harder, everything would fall into place. I was wrong. Stephen and I had been together for 3 years. He was a photographer, or at least that's what he called himself, though most months his career looked more like wishful thinking. He had talent, I won't deny that. His photos could make you feel something, the kind of quiet ache you couldn't put into words. But talent without direction burns out fast, and I was always the one holding the fire steady. Rent, groceries, electricity, all those invisible things that keep a life running, those were my department. I didn't complain, not really. I loved him. Or maybe I loved the version of him I thought he'd become once the struggle was over. He used to say, "You keep me grounded, Ava. Without you, I'd probably drift into space." It sounded romantic back then. Now it just sounds like gravity, something heavy he was trying to escape. After graduation, he bounced between freelance gigs, photo contests, and travel dreams that never left the planning stage. I was the steady one, the one with a full-time job and a savings account. We were opposites, but I told myself that made us stronger. Then last year, things started to shift. Stephen would stare at his phone for hours, scrolling through travel bloggers and photographers exploring Bali, Iceland, Morocco. He'd sigh and say things like, "They're living Ava, really living." I'd smile and say, "We'll get there too someday." He'd nod, but his eyes would glaze over already somewhere else. When his income dried up for a few months, I took care of everything, even dipped into my emergency savings to cover his credit card bill. He said he'd pay me back when his big project took off. That was 6 months ago. Still, I wanted to believe in us. I told myself he was just lost, not ungrateful. So when I saw how burned out we both were, I decided to do something different, something spontaneous. A week in a tropical resort with friends. Just the two of us and our closest couple friends, Maya and Ryan, and another pair, Jade and Theo. 6 people, one plan, sunshine, drinks, laughter, and maybe a reset. Stephen lit up when I told him. "Ava, seriously? You booked this." I laughed. Surprise. We could both use it. He grinned, pulled me into a hug, and whispered, "You're incredible. I mean it." For a moment, I believed him again. The days leading up to the trip were almost peaceful. He helped me pack, sort of. His version of helping was tossing a few shirts into a bag while I made sure our passports, sunscreen, and chargers were ready. Typical Stephen. When our flight took off, I watched him press his forehead against the window eyes, shining like a kid seeing the ocean for the first time. It was infectious. For the first time in a while, I felt hopeful. Maybe this trip really would fix us. The first 2 days felt like heaven. We snorkeled, swam, laughed till our stomachs hurt. He took pictures of me on the beach, said I looked unreal in this light. I blushed. It was like we'd rediscovered something we'd lost in the noise of daily life. At dinner one night, Ryan teased, "So, Ava, is this the engagement trip?" Everyone laughed. Even Stephen smiled, but his laugh was short, uneasy. Later, when we were alone, I asked, "That made you uncomfortable?" He shrugged. "No. Maybe. I just don't want to think about forever right now." It was like a pin popping a balloon. I forced a smile, but my chest tightened. That night, he stayed up late at the resort bar while I went back to the room. When I texted him around midnight, he replied, "Just talking to some people. You go to sleep. Love you." The next morning, he was still groggy, smelling faintly of rum and ocean air. It became a pattern, him disappearing for drinks, returning hours later, brushing it off with excuses like, "You know me, I just get caught up in conversation." I wanted to ask who he was talking to, but I didn't. I told myself not to be that girlfriend. On day 3, something felt off the moment I woke up. The bed beside me was empty. His phone wasn't charging on the nightstand. His camera bag was gone. I texted him. No reply. 1 hour passed, then 2, then 5. Maya noticed. "Hey, everything okay with Steven? Haven't seen him all morning?" Yeah, I lied. Probably taking sunrise shots somewhere. But my gut churned. By the time the sun dipped below the horizon, I spotted him walking toward us, laughing with a woman. She was tall, sun-kissed hair, tied up in that effortless way that screams, "I don't need to try." Stephen's arm was around her shoulders like it belonged there. Our friends froze. Ryan put down his drink. Maya's eyes darted to me, waiting for my reaction. Stephen plopped down on the lounger next to me, as if nothing was wrong. "Hey, babe," he said casually. "This is Lila. She's from San Diego." Lila smiled politely, oblivious, or maybe not. Maya's voice was the first to cut through the stunned silence. Stephen, where the hell have you been all day? Stephen exhaled. Then, in a tone too calm, too rehearsed, he said, All right, I guess I should just say it. I hooked up with Lila last night. The world tilted. I heard the words, but they didn't fit. They hung in the air like smoke unreal. He kept talking. I've been feeling trapped, Ava. I love you, I do, but I need to feel alive. Lila gets that. She's spontaneous, free. You've got everything figured out, and that's amazing, but I can't breathe anymore. I can't just live on schedules and paychecks. Maya gasped. Ryan muttered, Jesus Christ, man. Theo stood up angry. You're saying this here in front of her. Stephen waved his hand. Come on, guys. Don't make it dramatic. We all knew Ava and I were stuck in routine. I'm just being honest. He turned to me. You understand, right? You've always been the logical one. You'll see this is better for both of us. I wanted to scream, to cry, to throw something, anything. But instead, I looked him dead in the eyes and said, If that's what you want, Stephen, then go. Go feel alive. He blinked, almost startled by my calm. Then he smirked, that cruel, boyish smirk that used to charm me. I stood up, picked up my towel, and walked away without another word. Behind me, I heard Maya hiss, You're unbelievable, and Stephen's defensive mumbling. But I didn't turn back. The air was thick with salt and humiliation. I could still hear the waves steady unbothered, like the universe mocking me with its rhythm. That night, I packed alone. I didn't cry. Not yet. I just zipped my suitcase, looked around the quiet hotel room that still smelled like him, and thought maybe silence will hurt him more than words ever could. The flight home felt like a punishment and a blessing wrapped into one. I stared out the window the whole time, watching clouds drift past, like ghosts of everything I was leaving behind. Stephen didn't text, didn't call. Not even a hope you got home safe. When the plane landed, my phone buzzed one message from Maya. We're all so sorry, Ava. He's still with that girl. Everyone's disgusted. I turned off notifications after that. I didn't want to know what he was doing anymore. I wanted to forget the sound of his voice, the way he laughed as he humiliated me in front of our friends. Back in my apartment, the silence was unbearable. The smell of his cologne still lingered on the couch cushions, his camera lenses scattered across the coffee table like tiny eyes judging me. I stood in the doorway for a long time, feeling the weight of every small thing I'd done for him. Every rent payment, every dinner, every midnight reassurance that we'll be fine. We weren't fine. We never had been. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at his side of the room, the pile of clothes on the chair, the photo of us he'd framed last Christmas. My face in the picture looked so sure, so safe. I almost pitied that version of me. That night I didn't cry. Instead, I made a list. Change the locks, boxes things, breathe. By morning, I was a machine. Cold, efficient, detached. I took each of his things, the leather jacket I bought him, the framed art prints he'd never hung the camera bag I'd saved up for, and packed them neatly into boxes. I labeled each one with masking tape. Stephen's stuff. I called a moving company before lunch. Storage unit for 1 month, I told them. Paid in advance. They didn't ask questions. I liked that. By evening, the apartment was spotless, empty in a way that felt cruelly beautiful. I texted him one line. Your things are in storage. First month's rent is covered. Then I blocked his number. For the next few days, I functioned on autopilot. I worked, cooked, slept. My colleagues asked how my vacation went. I smiled and said, relaxing. It wasn't until the fourth night that the dam cracked. I was brushing my teeth when I saw his toothbrush still in the holder, the stupid blue one he insisted on keeping next to mine. I threw it in the trash and finally let myself sob. Not for him. For the time I'd wasted believing he'd grow up. The next morning, the sobbing was gone. In its place was something else, clarity. I went hiking that weekend, something I hadn't done in over a year. The trail was steep, quiet, and kind. I reached the summit at sunset wind, whipping my hair lungs, burning, and for the first time in months, I felt alive. Not because of anyone else, because I'd survived him. Days turned into weeks. My friends texted updates I didn't ask for. He's still with that girl. They're already fighting. He's broke again. Each message made me feel less and less of what I used to feel. The ache dulled into indifference. One evening, Maya called. Ava, you should know Stephen's asking about you. I raised an eyebrow. Why? Apparently Lila ghosted him after the trip. Just vanished. He's been moping around telling everyone he made a mistake. I almost laughed. Of course he did. Maya hesitated. He said you overreacted. that moving his stuff out was cruel. I took a sip of my tea. Cruel would have been leaving his things on the street. There was silence on the other end, then a quiet, "You're stronger than I thought." Maybe. Or maybe I'd just finally stopped trying to fix people who didn't want to be fixed. A week later, his number showed up again, this time from a new contact. He'd used his sister's phone. "Ava, can we talk, please? I messed up." I didn't reply. Then came another. "You're really just going to ignore me? After everything?" Yes, I was. I deleted the message, turned off my phone, and opened my laptop. A new email blinked on my screen, an invitation from a friend to join a hiking group. I clicked accept. That weekend, standing on another trail, surrounded by strangers who didn't know my story, I realized something simple but freeing. Stephen had been my whole world because I'd made him my compass. And when he left, I thought I was lost. But I wasn't. I was just finally walking my own path. I took a deep breath, closed my eyes, and let the wind carry away what was left of him. Freedom, I thought, isn't running away. It's standing still and realizing no one else can take your peace unless you hand it to them. 3 weeks passed before Stephen finally realized what silence feels like. I didn't block his new number right away this time, not because I wanted to talk, but because I wanted to see how far he'd fall. The first message came late at night. "Stephen, Ava, can we just talk? Please." "Stephen, I know I screwed up. I was drunk, confused." Lila meant nothing. I stared at the screen for a few seconds, then locked my phone and set it face down. The next morning there were 5 more. "Stephen, you moved my stuff. That's low. Stephen. At least tell me why you did that. Stephen, I can't sleep. Please, Ava." It was like watching a stranger pretend to know me. At work, I found myself smiling for no reason. My coworker Jenna noticed. "Someone's in a good mood," she teased. "Just organizing my life," I said. And it was true. I started waking up early again, cooking breakfast for one, going to the gym. I even dusted off my old camera, the one Stephen used to borrow and never return. For the first time in years, I didn't have to share my energy with anyone. Still, the messages kept coming. "Stephen, look, I miss you. I can't do this alone. Stephen, you were my anchor. I didn't mean to hurt you." Anchor. The same word he'd once used like a compliment now felt like a confession. He wasn't missing me. He was missing the version of himself that I used to carry, the safety net. The backup plan, the person who made his chaos survivable. I didn't respond. A few days later, he must have sent Maya to do his bidding. She texted me a long paragraph about forgiveness, about how everyone makes mistakes, how Stephen was really trying. I replied with 2 words: "He's free." That was enough. Later that week, I stopped by the storage unit to drop off a final box, the framed photo of us from Christmas. I placed it on top of his things, locked the door, and slid the key across the counter to the clerk. "That's the last of it," I said. Driving home, the air felt lighter. No ghosts in my passenger seat, no half-finished apologies rattling around in my chest. That night, I lit a candle, played an old vinyl, and wrote in my journal for the first time in months. He said he wanted freedom, so I gave it to him, every last bit of it. 2 weeks later, Karma started whispering. Maya called again, half embarrassed, half gloating. "You'll love this. Lila's out of the picture. She blocked him on everything." I raised an eyebrow. "Already? Oh yeah. Apparently she was seeing someone else the whole time. Stephen found out and lost it." I chuckled quietly. "Freedom's expensive, I guess." Maya laughed, then her tone softened. "You really aren't taking him back, are you?" "No," I said simply. "He burned that bridge himself. I'm just watching the smoke fade." She sighed. "Good. Because honestly, seeing you like this calm, happy, it's kind of inspiring." That word made me pause. Happy. Was I? I thought about it that night. Happiness wasn't fireworks or laughter anymore. It was waking up to quiet mornings, making coffee and not waiting for anyone else's footsteps. It was peace. Steady, undramatic, earned peace. But peace, I learned, doesn't mean the past disappears. A few days later, Stephen's sister Emma showed up at my office. I saw her through the glass wall before she barged in, arms crossed, face tight with judgment. "Ava, we need to talk," she snapped. I stood composed. "About what?" "About Stephen. You just threw him out like trash. He's depressed, broke, sleeping on a friend's couch. His choices." I interrupted calmly. "Not my responsibility." Her voice rose. "You were together for 3 years. You can't just erase someone like that." I met her glare, steady as a wall. He erased himself the moment he climbed into someone else's bed. Her face flushed. "He said you're cold, that you don't feel anything." Good, I said quietly. Maybe he'll finally stop mistaking kindness for weakness. She huffed and stormed out. I didn't follow. That night, I got another text from Stephen. It was longer this time, a desperate stream of self pity. Stephen, I lost everything, my gigs, my friends, even my sister's mad. I can't believe you won't talk to me. Stephen, you were my home, Ava. Please, I'm sorry. I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. But then I remembered the sound of his voice by the pool, the smug tone, the way he said, I need to feel alive, while I stood there breaking in front of everyone. And just like that, the sympathy vanished. I wrote one message back, not to reopen the door, just to close it permanently. Ava, you said you wanted to live without regrets. I hope you got what you wanted. Then I hit block one last time. No revenge, no screaming, just silence. And silence, I realized, is louder than revenge ever could be. The next morning, I woke before sunrise. The city was still asleep, the sky a faint wash of blue and gold. I stood on my balcony, coffee in hand, breathing in air that finally felt like mine. People think heartbreak is a collapse, but sometimes it's just a quiet reset the moment you realize you don't need to be understood to be free. He said he wanted freedom. I just gave him what he asked for. It's strange how karma doesn't always come in thunderclaps. Sometimes it arrives in whispers, subtle, almost polite. For Stephen, it came as a slow unraveling. It started when Ryan messaged me out of nowhere. Ryan, hey, just a heads up. Stephen's been blowing up our group chat again. Me. What now, Ryan? He's saying you overreacted, that you moved too fast. Everyone's done defending him, though. Maya finally told him off. I could almost see it, Stephen sitting somewhere dimly lit, spinning a story that made him look like the tragic hero. But what he didn't realize was that every retelling made him smaller. A week later, Maya called. You won't believe this, she said, half whispering. Stephen got kicked out of his shared studio space. Apparently, Lila never paid her half of the rent and disappeared. He tried to call her, she blocked him. I almost felt bad. Almost. But then she added, he told Theo he's been crashing at some guy's couch trying to rebuild from the ashes. Ashes. The drama of it all almost made me laugh. When I hung up, I sat quietly for a while, watching the sunset bleed orange through my window. I didn't feel triumphant. Just done. There's a strange kind of satisfaction in watching the person who once broke you finally face themselves, not because you wish them pain, but because they finally ran out of excuses. That night I dreamed of the ocean again. Only this time Stephen wasn't in it. Just me standing barefoot at the shore, the waves pulling everything old away. A few days later, his name popped up again, this time through Mia, one of his old photography buddies. She texted me a wall of messages. Mia, Ava, he's not okay. He's been drinking a lot. Keeps saying he misses you. Mia, look. Lila ghosted him. He admits he messed up. Can't you just talk to him? Closure, maybe? Closure. The word felt like a trap. I typed and deleted my reply 3 times before sending the only thing that mattered. Ava, he got his closure when he chose her. I turned off my phone after that. But silence didn't mean peace. A few days later, I found a letter taped to my apartment door, my name written in Stephen's handwriting. I didn't open it right away. I left it on the counter while I made coffee, pretending it didn't exist. When I finally tore it open, the paper smelled faintly like his cologne, faint, like something that used to mean comfort. Ava, you won. Okay. You made your point. Everyone thinks I'm trash now. Lila's gone. My gigs are gone, and I'm alone. Is that what you wanted? I get it. I hurt you. But did you have to make it this final? Please, let's talk. I can't keep doing this. Stephen. For a long time, I just stared at the page. Then I folded it, slid it back into the envelope, and dropped it in the trash. Because no, Stephen, I didn't win. There was never a game. You just finally learned what happens when you gamble with someone who was all in. The next week, Maya and Ryan invited me out for dinner. Think of it as a debrief, Ryan joked. We owe you margaritas. We met at a rooftop bar, string lights, city skyline, soft music. The kind of place Stephen used to say was too expensive for vibes. We talked about work movies, anything but him. Until Maya leaned forward, grinning. So someone caught your eye yet? I laughed, shaking my head. God, no. I'm not rushing back into the chaos. Fair, Ryan said. But I've got to say you're glowing, like post-drama enlightenment. Maybe I was. For the first time, I wasn't looking backward. Later that night, as I walked home alone, I passed a street musician playing an old guitar, a familiar melody. Stephen used to hum it while editing photos, but instead of pain, I felt something else release. It hit me then. Love isn't what you give someone who doesn't know what to do with it. Love, real love, is what you keep for yourself when someone tries to break it. The next morning, another message. Stephen, you donated my stuff. Seriously, Stephen. I needed that camera gear. Ava, you're being heartless. I smirked. Heartless. The same word his sister had thrown at me. The same word men use when a woman stops bleeding for someone who cut her. I typed my reply slowly. Ava, you said you wanted to live without regret. Consider this lesson part of it. Then I deleted his number for good this time. In the following days, something shifted in me. I stopped thinking of him as the man who hurt me and started seeing him as a chapter. One that ended exactly when it was supposed to. I took up a new hobby, painting. Nothing serious, just colors on canvas chaos that no longer needed to make sense. It was freeing. One evening, as I cleaned my brushes, I caught my reflection in the window. I looked tired, yes, but peaceful. The kind of peace that comes after the storm when you realize everything standing is truly yours. A month after the breakup, Maya sent me one last update. Maya. He's moving back in with his parents. No one's talking to him anymore. Me. I hope he learned something. Maya. You're kinder than I would be. I smiled at that. Kindness wasn't weakness, not anymore. It was power, quiet, controlled, and earned. I didn't need revenge. He was living in it. I used to think closure came in conversations, the kind where people cry, apologize, promise to do better. But I've learned real closure is quieter. It comes the moment you stop caring about the apology. By the time Stephen's next attempt to reach me came, I wasn't angry anymore, just detached. It started with a new number, a message that read, Stephen, I get it. I deserve your silence. But please let me explain. I lost everything. You were right about me. I didn't reply. Then came the calls. Dozens of them. When that didn't work, he started showing up in indirect ways, liking my old social media. I deleted them all. And when he realized his digital breadcrumbs weren't pulling me back, he switched tactics. He sent Emma, again. It was a Friday evening. I had just finished work and stopped at my favorite coffee shop, the one Stephen used to complain was too hipster. As I stirred my latte, I heard a familiar voice behind me. Ava. I turned slow and calm. Emma stood there, arms crossed, eyes sharp. Did you send Stephen to talk to me again? I asked flatly. She scoffed. He's not himself. He's depressed. You've made your point, but this is getting cruel. Cruel, I raised an eyebrow. He cheated. Publicly. He humiliated me. I just moved on. Her lips tightened. You're cold. No, I said softly. I'm healed. She hesitated like she didn't know what to say to a version of me that wasn't begging or breaking. Fine, she muttered finally. He just wanted me to tell you he's sorry. That's all. Then message delivered, I said, standing up. And now you can tell him I don't care. I left her standing there, stunned, the bell above the door chiming behind me like punctuation. That night, I took a long shower and sat by the window in my robe, hair damp, city lights flickering below. For the first time, I let myself feel proud. Proud that I didn't chase him. Proud that I didn't let pain make me petty. Proud that I had finally chosen myself. I picked up my phone and opened a blank note. You don't need revenge when your peace is louder than their guilt. I typed it, smiled, and closed the app. 2 days later, Stephen's messages turned bitter. Stephen. So that's it. You're just pretending I never existed, Stephen. You think ignoring me makes you better than me, Stephen. I said I was sorry. What more do you want? Nothing. That was the point. Still, curiosity got the better of me. I clicked on his profile, private now, but his bio had changed. Freedom's overrated. The irony almost made me laugh out loud. As weeks passed, I started going out more. Maya dragged me to art exhibits, Ryan introduced me to new hiking trails, and Jade got me into pottery classes. One evening, as I shaped clay on the spinning wheel, my hands trembling with the rhythm, I realized I wasn't thinking about Stephen at all. A man across from me smiled, soft eyes, kind voice. His name was Noah, an architect who joined the class to learn patience. We talked about books, travel, and coffee, and not once did he make me feel like I had to shrink to fit beside him. When class ended, he walked me to my car. I hope you come next week, he said with a shy smile. I smiled back. I think I will. That night, I didn't feel guilt. Just calm curiosity, the kind that feels like the start of something clean. A week later, Stephen tried again, a final attempt that sounded more like a tantrum. Stephen, you're proving you were never the kind person I thought you were. Stephen, everyone turns on me, and you just watch. Stephen, I hope your new life's worth it. New? I didn't even open the full message. I deleted it, blocked the number, and whispered into the quiet of my room. It is. Sometimes I catch myself wondering if he ever understood what he lost. Not me, but the version of himself that existed when someone still believed in him. He once said I was safe, that I didn't make him feel alive. But what he never realized was that stability isn't the opposite of excitement, it's the foundation for it. You can't chase freedom if you don't know how to stand still. That weekend, I met Maya and Ryan for brunch. The morning light was soft, the air smelled of cinnamon and coffee. Maya leaned in with a grin. You look different, happier. I smiled. Maybe because I finally stopped living for someone who couldn't see my worth. Ryan raised his glass. To that. We clinked glasses, laughter spilling into the air like something reborn. That night I went home, opened my journal, and wrote one last entry about Stephen. He wanted freedom. He found loneliness. I wanted peace. I found myself. And for the first time since the betrayal, I closed the notebook and didn't cry, because the story finally felt finished. It was almost 2 months of silence before the knock came. 3 sharp pounds against my apartment door, like someone trying to wake the dead. I froze. I knew that rhythm. When I peered through the peephole, I saw him Stephen. He looked nothing like the man I'd once loved. His hair was longer, messy, his face hollow eyes sunken like they hadn't known sleep in weeks. He was clutching a duffel bag, rain dripping from his jacket. For a long second I didn't move. Then I opened the door just an inch, leaving the chain on. He exhaled relief, flooding his voice. Finally, you're home. What do you want, Stephen? My tone was calm, detached. So calm it scared even me. He blinked, taken aback. That's it, no. Hi. No, come in out of the rain. Why would I asked flatly. He ran a hand through his wet hair, frustrated. Because I'm here to fix this. To talk. Please, Ava, I'm sorry. The word sorry had lost all meaning coming from him. It sounded like an echo of every mistake he refused to own. I tilted my head slightly. You already said that in 100 texts through your sister, even through Maya. None of it mattered then. It doesn't now. He frowned, desperation creeping into his voice. You don't get it. Everything fell apart after you left. Lila was a mistake. She used me, Ava. She took my equipment, my contacts, everything. I was stupid, but you. His voice cracked. You're the only one who ever really cared. I stared at him for a moment before saying softly, and you mistook care for convenience. He flinched. That's not fair. No, I said. What wasn't fair was humiliating me in front of our friends. What wasn't fair was watching you call another woman freedom while I stood there trying not to collapse. His jaw tightened. You're really not going to give me a chance to explain? I shook my head. You already did. You just didn't know I was listening back then. He laughed bitterly, wiping his face. God, you've changed. I had to. Silence stretched between us, thick and heavy. The hallway light flickered, rain drumming softly against the windows. Then his tone shifted, pleading turned to anger. So that's it. You just shut me out. You think you're better than me now? No, I said quietly. I think I'm finally me now. He took a step forward, but the chain stopped him. His hand gripped the edge of the door. You don't even care, do you, about what we had? I looked at him, the same man who once called me his anchor, who once promised a life of some days, now drenched, trembling, and furious that I had stopped orbiting around him. I spoke softly but firmly. I cared, Stephen. Too much. Enough to hold on when you gave me every reason to let go. But that version of me died the day you decided excitement mattered more than loyalty. He shook his head, voice breaking. You're cold. I'm free, I interrupted. He froze. Remember when you said you wanted to feel alive? When you said I was too predictable, too safe, I listened. And now you get to feel exactly what freedom costs, because this, I gestured between us, is what it looks like when someone stops saving you. His eyes glistened fury, giving way to defeat. You really mean that? He whispered. I nodded. I do. He stood there a moment longer, chest rising and falling before muttering, You'll regret this. I smiled faintly. I already did. Once. Then I closed the door. The sound of the latch clicking echoed through the quiet apartment like a full stop at the end of a long, painful sentence. I waited a few seconds, no more knocking, no shouting, just the fading shuffle of his footsteps retreating down the hall. When I turned around, something inside me felt lighter, not triumphant, just Over. Later that night, I curled up on the couch, the city humming softly outside. For the first time, I noticed how beautiful the rain sounded when it wasn't mixed with someone else's apologies. I opened my journal one last time and wrote, "He said he needed freedom, so I gave it to him, all of it, and maybe that's the cruelest kindness there is." I closed the notebook, blew out the candle beside me, and let the darkness settle, not heavy, but peaceful. Somewhere outside, thunder rolled, and I smiled, whispering to the quiet freedom isn't free.